Thank you very much for being here. And thank you for those that are coming here for a lesson review. I saw some faces earlier today, so thank you very much. It looks like you're eager to learn and find out more about what we're doing. So we're here this evening, as the invitation says, because of the proposed charter amendments. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is a charter? A municipal charter is basically the document that gives us the legality to be a municipality, to be a city, and it has the rules and regulations for us that indicates how to govern ourselves, okay? So it deals with different things, anything from, how the commission is supposed to govern itself, to elections, and even the budget. So it covers a wide range of different points regarding the city. And why are we here today? Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna explain to you what these 14 proposed charter amendments are about. Now, how did these 14 proposed charter amendments come to be? The way they come to be is through the suggestions of the Charter Review Commission. The Charter Review Commission is composed of members that are appointed by each one of the commissioners, okay? And this is an independent body that what it does is that it goes through the charter, it points out things that could be, let's say, changed so it's clearer, and then also things that could be added or deleted, for the purpose of making the charter stronger. Now, why strong charter is important? Because obviously the stronger you have a charter, remember, this is our governing document, the stronger the city is, the stronger your government will be, and also the clear direction that the commission would have. I would like to thank the Charter Review Commission. We have here Robert Thatcher. Also, we have our Commissioner Jennifer Vizcarra, who was the liaison for the Charter Review Commission. And then we have Jody as well, who was part of the Charter Review Commission. So I believe they did an excellent job. And I'd like to just preface this by saying that we are here to explain what these proposed amendments are and answer any questions. We are not here to tell you how we think about each one of these proposed amendments. Obviously, we're not here to influence. We're here to inform and for you to be knowledgeable and obviously thus make your own decisions. So with that, we have here Mauricio Betancourt. He's our city clerk. And he was very involved with this too. And also we have our city attorney, Ed, who will be also explaining to you and answering any questions you may have. So again, thank you very much for coming, and it's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. As Commissioner Lama had mentioned, the purpose for this meeting is to present to you all the proposed amendments for our city's charter. And just to reiterate and to bring emphasis on the point that Commissioner Lama made, this meeting is solely for informational purposes only. In fact, there is a statute that prohibits municipalities from advocating either for or against any public measure or any question that's going to be presented to the electorate. So again, just be mindful of that we are in no way, shape, or form making any suggestions or recommendations on the way you should vote on these amendments, okay? So with that said, we're going to go ahead and start. As I mentioned and the Commissioner Lama mentioned, my name is Mauricio Betancourt. I'm the city clerk for the city. And also joining the presentation is our city attorney, Ed Dion. So let's start at the very, very beginning. What is a charter? A charter is basically the most important document for a municipality. It's basically the document that tells everyone or all its residents what municipal powers a city can have. For example, like managing the financing, the structure of government, the powers, the responsibilities, and especially on how to elect your officials. So just like with the Constitution, which basically a charter is a constitution, just like the US Constitution, we can make amendments to that charter. And there are certain procedures that the charter itself contains for it to be amended. The first one, and this is in no particular order, is an initiation by ordinance. What this basically means is that the city commission has the authority to be able to make amendments to its charter as they see fit, provided that those changes are first presented to the residents of the city via an ordinance, which an ordinance in and of itself requires two separate readings. And that's basically to allow the residents the opportunity to be aware of what changes are being effectuated or being proposed, so that you all are more informed when it comes time to vote on those referendum. The other option that the charter provides is an initiation by petition. Just like with any petition, it requires signature, and that's basically the most important component of an initiation by petition. The charter requires, and as a matter of fact, statutes also require that any petition that is related to an amendment, whether it be to an ordinance or to the charter itself, that it garners 10% of the signatures of the registered voters at the time at the preceding general election. So for example, if a petition had been initiated this time around, whoever organized the petition would have needed to get 10% of the votes, 10% of the signatures of the registered voters, which at the time of the last general election was just at about under 12,700 voters. So that would mean that someone would need to get about 1,270 votes to be able to start the proceedings to amend the charter, if it was done by petition. So the charter also provides a third procedure to be able to amend the charter, and that's through the Charter Revision Commission, also known as the CRC. The charter provides that every 10 years, the city commission at the time establishes a board so that they can do an analysis and a review of the charter and propose any recommendations or any changes to that charter. And just as a matter of context, and just a little bit of a historical context actually, the city was incorporated in 1997. At that time, in June 3rd, 1997, as a matter of fact, the city held an election for the referendum to adopt the city's very first charter. That was a controlling document that allowed the creation and the establishment of the city itself. After that, the charter provided that 5 years after the city's incorporation, it needed to create a charter revision commission to review the charter and make any proposed changes to be presented to the electorate, which they did, and the election was held in 2003. Subsequently, the following year, and then again in 2008 and in 2011, the city commission themselves initiated proposed changes via an ordinance, which is what I explained earlier, which required 2 separate readings for each one that they proposed. And then that brings us to 2013, which is 10 years after 2003, which is the last time that the Charter Revision Commission conducted a review and an analysis of the charter and proposed their changes at that time. Which now brings us to today, 10 years later. The City Commission established the Charter Revision Commission, and they were charged with doing another review and analysis of the charter and making their recommendations on changes. So this is a timeline that is also provided for in the charter. This is the timeline that the Charter Revision Commission is required to adhere to, which is provided for in the charter itself, and it provides for specific dates that they needed to meet in order for those proceedings to continue and stay within the parameters provided for in the charter. Namely, the appointments were made in December 15th of 2022 for this time around. After those appointments, that Charter Revision Commission needed to have commenced their proceedings within 45 days of appointment, which would have been January 29th, 2023. Since then, they needed to submit, after they commenced the proceedings, they needed to submit those proposed changes, if they had any, within 120 days, which would have been by April 14th, 2023. Once the commission received those amendments by the charter, they needed to be presented to the electorate within 30 to 60 days after receiving them, which that brings us to May 23rd, 2023. And that's when we will have our special election for the referendum. So that brings us to what are the proposed amendments. And with that, I will turn it over to our city attorney to start with questions 1 through 9.
First of all, it's real important for y'all to know that I'm the former city attorney. I'm trying to retire, but they keep bringing me back for God knows what reason. A couple of things I want to say first. First of all, I want to thank the members of the Charter Revision Commission. I served as legal counsel to them. They comprehensively reviewed the existing charter and came up with these 14 amendments. I believe we had 5 meetings, Mauricio? 6 meetings on Friday evenings. And so they gave up a bunch of their time in order to come up with this, and they should be congratulated for that. The second thing I want to point out to you is that the amendments that you see are from the Charter Revision Commission themselves. The City Commission has no authority to change any of the ones or alter any of the ones that were proposed by the Charter Review Commission. So the City Commission did not propose these. All they could do is to accept them and schedule the special election, which is what they've done. All right, so amendment number 1 is the appointment of the vice mayor. What has traditionally been done in the city is that the mayor would nominate someone to be the vice mayor, and then the commission would vote on who that was. That's not what it says in the charter right now. So what we're trying to do is to clarify that so that the mayor will in fact nominate, and then the 5 members of the commission will vote on the vice mayor. Number 2 is limitation on lengths of service. Currently, the charter provides that a commission member's term will be deemed commenced upon election. What the Charter Review Commission is proposing is it be amended to provide that a term will be deemed commenced on the 14th day after certification of the election results for a general or runoff election, and for a special election, 14 days immediately after certification of the election. The reason for that is something that we ran into this time is we had a situation where the charter didn't provide for when someone would take office after a special election. And if you all recall, we had a couple of special elections in the last cycle. So we just want to clarify the fact that for a special election, they'll take their office immediately after certification of the election results. Commencement of terms. This is basically, there are 2 separate things here. Number 1 is the previous one, which is limitation on lengths of service. And this provision is in another part of the charter that deals with the commencement of terms. What the Charter Revision Commission is proposing is that those 2 provisions basically read the same, so that one will commence their term 14 days after certification of election results for a general or runoff election, and immediately upon certification of a special election results. Currently, the city charter provides that a qualifying fee for any candidate is $100, and the Charter Review Commission is recommending that be increased to $200. Filling of vacancies. In the unlikely event that every one of the members of the City Commission are disqualified or removed from office for whatever reason, the governor of the state of Florida is to appoint interim commissioners, and then there's supposed to be a special election not later than 30 days or more than 60 days after that appointment. What the problem with that is that there's no other provision for calling a special election. So this is proposing that they be amended to provide that elections called for in this unlikely event shall be instead by a special election, not general election, but a special election pursuant to the charter and code of ordinances. So it's really just clarification. For compensation reimbursement of expenses, this is for the mayor and city commissioners. They're under the original charter. They're receiving compensation in the amount of $1,250 for the mayor and $1,000 for the other 4 commissioners per month. And there's also a provision in there that says that increase is pursuant to a consumer price index. The problem is that there was no consumer price index in the current charter, so what the Charter Revision Commission is recommending is or proposing is that the charter be amended to clarify that the compensation be increased annually according to that specific consumer price index, which is the one for our locality. Charter currently provides that no one who served as a commissioner is eligible for appointment as city manager for a period of 2 years after their term expires. The Charter Revision Commission is proposing that the charter be amended to provide that no commissioner be eligible to serve as a city manager until at least 5 years after the expiration of his or her term. And the last one for me deals with the city clerk. Currently, Mauricio, as the city clerk, is appointed by the city manager and reports to the city manager. The Charter Revision Commission is proposing that the charter be amended so that the mayor and the city commission appoint the clerk, and the clerk be report to them just as the city manager and the city attorney do. So with that, I'll turn it back to Mauricio for the last 6.
Can I ask a question on one? Sure. On one, for appointment of vice mayor, the charter says shall elect one of its members, but then on the revision, it's proposed the charter says the vice mayor may nominate. Is that a widening scope? They can nominate anybody?
No.
Or can they only nominate from the commission?
No, they can only nominate from the commission.
It doesn't say that here.
But this is just a summary of what it is. The actual language provides from the residential city commissioners.
Okay, so with that, we will move on to question or amendment number 9. And this relates to the city attorney's office. So with this amendment, this one is just basically a cleanup and trying to make it consistent with the rest of the language that's found in the charter as it relates to the city manager's office, where the mayor, it says that the mayor may nominate, and the Charter Revision Commission has proposed that it be revised to say shall, to make it more mandatory or required. Amendment number 10 has to do with elected or former elected officials holding employment in the city. This one is very similar to amendment number 7, where amendment number 7 increases or would increase the prohibition from a former elected official from serving as a city manager for 5 years after their finishing of their last term. This one would apply to other positions in the city. For example, let's say Commissioner Vizcarra, who is ending her term, who's in her second term, will be ending her term in the next 2 years. If this amendment is accepted, then she would be prohibited from holding any municipal employment for the next 3 years. And this applies only to the city, not to any other municipality in the state. Amendment number 11 has to do with runoffs. The charter currently does not provide any procedures on how to hold or what to follow in the event that we have a special election. So what the Charter Revision Commission has proposed is to delegate that authority to the City Commission so that they may establish the procedures to follow during a special election, which would essentially be the same ones that we follow for the general election. Jody, did you have a question?
Yeah, it was just interesting. I greatly appreciate everything you're doing and Ed is doing, and thank. Oh, sorry. I so greatly appreciate what you're doing and what you have done. I worked with you on the charter, and again, I thank you to no end, and Ed, and I want to thank Jennifer and Alex and Jerry for showing up tonight. But I'm just a little, when you had mentioned, just politely speaking, Jennifer as an example, who's been a fabulous, vice mayor and commissioner. We were just saying that for some people, it wasn't at all pertaining to Jennifer. It was just, because Jennifer is as a single mom and a working attorney. It was for some people who don't have an occupation and don't work and are holding very high titles in our city. For instance, whatever, the mayor and et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to say that wasn't pertaining to Jennifer per se.
No, and just to clarify, I was just using her as an example because she's one of the two commissioners.
Yeah.
I could have very easily used Commissioner Lama because he's also, on his last term.
And I know that, yes, and I thank
Perfect.
them both.
Yeah, but I used Jennifer.
You did use Jennifer,
I did.
and it was not, meant to be, and I know you didn't mean it as well.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you. Thank you for the
And we thank Jennifer and Alex for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the next amendment, number 12, this is another cleanup language. This is just to provide that, or to eliminate the provision that allows the ballot title to differ from its legal title. Amendment number 13 is a little bit more involved. So as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, the City Commission has to establish the Charter Revision Commission every 10 years, and it's done in December. The Charter Revision Commission proposed that the appointments be made in January instead of December, and by proposing that, it would essentially, instead of the appointment being made in the preceding year, it would be done the following year. So for instance, in 10 years from now, instead of the appointments being made in December of 2032, if this amendment is adopted or accepted, then the appointments would be made in January of 2033, and then every 10 years thereafter. So that's what that change is proposed. And finally, we have the timeframe for submitting the charter amendments. The Charter Revision Commission felt that 120 days might be a little bit too short. Granted, I just adds a little bit of context. This time around, the whole process for this charter revision was shortened considerably because the elections department for Miami-Dade County notified us that they were going to be blocking out the summer months, June, July, August, and September of this year, meaning that no municipality would be able to hold any type of election during those months. And that has to do with redistricting and re-precincting of the entire county. So that timeline was truncated, and upon review, it was suggested that it be increased to 150 days instead of 120 to submit their proposed revisions to the commission so that they can in turn present it to the electorate. So those are basically the 14 amendments that will be on the ballot on May 23rd. We just want to give you all a few reminders of what's coming up. As I mentioned, the special election will be on May 23rd, 2023. There are two ways to vote in that special election. Vote by mail is probably the easiest way to vote. All you have to do is just make a request from the elections department, and they will mail you a ballot to your residence, and you can just fill it out at your leisure and mail it back, so long as it's received by 7 p.m. On election day, May 23rd. And when I say receive, it means that it needs to be in the supervisor of elections' physical possession by 7 o'clock on May 23rd. And that's if you decide to vote by mail. The other option is voting on election day. This special election will follow the same procedures as we do for all other elections. The polls will be open from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. If you are voting on election day and you happen to get there close to 7, you just make sure that you are in line by 7 o'clock and you'd be allowed to vote. One thing, going back to the vote by mail ballots, as I mentioned, you need to submit those by 7 o'clock. If for any reason, or if any of you are not registered to receive a vote by mail ballot, you may still do so. You have 10 days before the special election to be able to request that vote by mail ballot, which would be May 13th, 2023, by 5 p.m. And if you vote by mail, you may mail it back through the regular post office, or you may drop it off in person to the elections department. Their address is located right there. Or you may also drop it off at the government center of Miami-Dade County, located in downtown. Yes?
And if you need help,
Yes, if you need any assistance to either request the vote by mail ballot or any voter registration, you can always contact our office or call the Miami-Dade County Elections Department for assistance, and we'll be happy to help you. Okay, so one important thing that we need to mention is that unfortunately, for this special election, the elections department was unable to secure the normal polling place for precincts 2 and 3. So normally for polling place 2, it's St. Mary Magdalene, and for precinct 3, the polling place is normally Winston Towers. So when the elections department was getting ready to set up and do all their process for scheduling this special election, they sent out notification letters to all the polling places. We received one as the polling place for precinct number 4 and the government center. But unfortunately, they received notification back from St. Mary Magdalene saying that their auditorium was not going to be available for use that week, that entire week, which included obviously election day, May 23rd. And as far as Winston Towers, they have ongoing construction, which would render the auditorium unusable for a certain period of time. So that location is also unavailable for May 23rd. So after conducting a study analysis and after several discussions with the elections department and our office, the elections department made the decision to collocate those 3 precincts into one. So basically what is going to happen now for this special election is that precinct 2, precinct 3, and precinct 4 will be housed here in Gateway Center in this ballroom. So does anyone live in precinct 1, 2 area? Anybody here? Okay, so you all will have to come here. If you vote on election day, you'll have to come to this location. The elections department will be sending you what's known as a TPP card, which is a temporary polling place card. With that card, you're able to come here to this precinct to this location and vote. If for any reason you forget it or you don't receive it, you can still bring your voter registration card and your driver's license, and you should be able to receive your ballot because you'll already be in the system. So this is the mailer that we will be sending out in addition to the notifications that the elections department is sending out. This mailer will go only to those affected registered voters in those 2 precincts. So you 2 gentlemen will receive this mailer in the mail as early as the 1st or 2nd week of May, if I'm not mistaken. And as a reminder for everyone else, these are the precincts that we have here in the city. Precinct number 2, as I mentioned, is being relocated temporarily to the Gateway Center, as is precinct number 3. Precinct number 4 has always been Gateway Center, so that there's no changes there. And 5 and 67 remain unchanged. So if you vote at any of those other 3 locations, you proceed as you normally do during any other general election or special election that we've had in the past. Okay? So with that, we conclude our presentation. Thank you all for attending. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Just keep in mind that because of the prohibition that is imposed on us by the state of Florida, we have to be very careful in how we answer those questions so that we don't give off the appearance of us advocating for or against any of these 14 amendments. Yes, Jody. Give me 1 second, Jody. Let me get you
What is it?
No, I just. It's already pissed off.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
No, honestly, it was so involved, and there was so much, detailed, and again, Robert Thatcher was amazing. I want to thank you. You were so polite, such a gentleman, and that's the way it should always be, and I thank you for that. And, Jennifer was at every meeting, and she was spectacular. But we were all, we all studied, and I think it's fair to say that I think we
Absolutely.
made-
You just jumped the gun. I was saving that for last.
Yeah,
The best for last,
little
right?
than most people, only because we've had so much time to look into
Absolutely.
this. And we all had so many questions. So I just want to say, some people are worried or scared to ask questions. Please don't be, because we all did. So ask questions, and, we put a lot of time into this, and so there's no embarrassment or shame here, so, please, feel free.
Having a different time computation for when an office takes place after the election. Immediately upon certification for the special election, and 30 days or 14 days for a regular election. Why is there a difference there?
The charter was unclear. What it currently provides is that you take office for general and runoff elections 30 days after the date of the election. Well, if there's a runoff or a special election, sometimes it takes more than 30 days. And so this way, we're basing it on when the results are actually certified versus some arbitrary number from the date of the election.
But for a special election, it's different.
It is, because for a special election like we had this time, is that we had vacancies. So we did not actually have a quorum to conduct the city commission's business. So we wanted to make it immediately upon certification for a special election so that those individuals could immediately take their seats instead of waiting the 14 days.
And just to add to that, if you recall, one of the proposed amendments for this time around is that the Charter Revision Commission proposed that the authority be given to the commission to set the procedures to follow for a special election. I was about to say something incorrectly. So assuming that these proposed amendments are adopted and are accepted by the electorate, we would try to follow the same procedures that we follow for the general election right now. And that's why one of the questions is to move it to 14 days after certification of the special election results or general election results. Yes?
If one of the commissioners wants to run for mayor, for example, do they have to wait a certain amount of years that you mentioned there before they can run?
No, there's nothing in the charter that requires anybody to spend any amount of time as a commissioner before they can run for mayor. But if they're a sitting commissioner under state statute and they want to run during their term, they have to resign in order to run for that seat.
There was something there about you cannot have a city office within.
It's a dual office. Oh, employment, I'm sorry.
No, the issue is that a commissioner cannot hold any city office for 5 years after they leave.
As a city manager.
That was what the Charter Revision Commission came up with. It's currently 3, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And
it's
it's
currently
going.
3.
They're
So-
recommending it go to 5.
So there's two similar questions on there. And I believe it's 7 and 11, if you want to refer to, I'm sorry, 7 and 10. So number 7 deals with any former elected official serving as a city manager. Currently, the charter provides that there's a prohibition for 3 years. The Charter Revision Commission proposed that it be increased to 5 years. Number 10 deals with any other employment or any other position in the city. So for example, like again, and this is not to single out, I'll use Commissioner Lama this time. Once he finishes his term, he would need to wait 1 year. As the charter is currently written, he would need to wait 1 year before he can accept any employment from the city. The Charter Revision Commission proposed that it be increased to 3 years instead of 1. So those are the two.
Commission, I believe, just wanted to increase the amount of time so that there wouldn't be any undue influence on hiring a former commissioner immediately after they leave office.
So the commissioner after his term can run for mayor, or he'd have to wait again 5 years?
Yeah. A commissioner can run for mayor at the expiration of their term.
Those
Or in
two-
the middle of the
Yeah,
term.
those two questions have nothing to do with any of the commissioners serving as a mayor. The only restriction that there is, as Ed had explained, is the dual office. So if any of the current sitting commissioners wanted to run for mayor at the next election, when that seat is up, and they are still serving, then they would need to resign from that office to be able to run for mayor. Other than that, then they do not need to resign.
It's only for appointed or appointed office. For example, let's use Commissioner Fiscara. At the end of her term, if this is passed, she could not be appointed city attorney for 5 years until 5 years after the expiration of her term. Okay, it's appointed office or any other employment within the city.
Can I honestly,
Can I just say, can you just say, this does not affect any elected office positions?
I thought we just said. Yeah, this doesn't apply to any elected office. These changes only apply to city manager, appointed office, or any other, like finance director or any other employment within the city. The police chief, for example, is an appointed office. Yes, sir. Let me get back there.
So I'm in precinct 3, so I'm gonna come over here, but what if or Alex can't find his voting card? We can't vote here if we don't have the voting card?
Either bring your driver's license, your voter registration card, or the TPP card that the elections department will be sending you that lets you know that your polling location has changed, and you are able to bring that card with you also, and they'll be able to find you in the system.
Just the license will work?
The license would work as well. Any other questions? No one? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Just to reiterate and echo the words that Jody mentioned and Commissioner Lama mentioned at the beginning, a sincere thank you on behalf of the City Commission and the community as a whole to the Charter Revision Commission for their hard work on reviewing this charter and proposing these amendments. It's not something that they took very lightly. They took it very seriously, and in my opinion, did a tremendous job. So Robert Thatcher as the chairperson, Jody Joseph as a member, and Commissioner Viscar that just left as the members of the Charter Revision. Thank you, and please go out and vote. Thank you.